So in the first clip, we went over where to find your crops, why you'd want them, and all that. Now I'm going to show you some techniques for planting them and some basically, in particular, one mistake to avoid. So if you're starting out with one small planter even, you can actually get going pretty well. Doesn't take much to get some crops growing. So if you have only one planter, you know, what do you want? Are you short on cloth? If you're short on cloth, maybe plant some hemp and some food. There you go. Couple hours, hour and a half to 2 hours, you'll have some crops coming up perfectly fine. Maybe you want to get a wood potion because you want to get that rolling early game. 2 blueberries and a red berry, there you go. So the mistake you want to avoid is something that new players do a whole lot when they're farming. They put down a large planter box and then they monocrop. And you noticed over here, blueberry is separated from blueberry, hemp is separated from hemp. Here, corn is just all adjacent to corn. And the reason this is a problem is because of the crossbreeding. Oh my God, I could not have done this on purpose. Crossbreeding works with adjacent plants. So this plant in this corner, when it reaches the crossbreed phase, is going to look at this plant, and this plant for genetic material, and then take genetics from those and become copies of those plants and their genetic mix. Having a 6 red genetic plant in the dead center is going to ruin this entire box because of the way the genetic works. Your green genes are your positive ones, sort of. H is pretty much neutral, but it's easy to work with. Your red genes, the W is a negative, the X is a neutral, but they're hard to replace or hard to overwrite. But the opposite works that way too. A W will easily overwrite, or a red gene will easily overwrite a green gene. So the reason that works is, let's see. So here we've got an H and an H in slot 6 and an X in slot 6. Well, if it was just these 3, that double H would overwrite the X. But the moment there's a W, do we have any other X's in here? We don't. So I guess in this case, this plant here would end up with an H in slot 6 because of all of the H's near it, right? But that's not likely. So when these things hit crossbreed, they're all going to start taking the negative genes preferentially because of the way they're weighted, and that means your crops are going to grow slower, and the slower they grow, the more water they use, and they're going to yield less. So this box of corn is probably going to put out somewhere between 4 and 6 corn per plant. I'm really speculating. I don't plant like this, so I can't remember how bad the numbers get. So if you want to do this much more properly, let's say you're still looking for food because maybe you've got a crew and we need some food. So we're going to plant our corn in the corners where it can't crossbreed, and boom, we already got a good one. That leaves us 5 slots to do with. So let's go back to that idea of maybe making a wood potion. And if we're lucky, so 1 blue and 1 yellow, or sorry, 1 red and 1 yellow, we might be able to get a basic wood and a basic ore potion out of this. And we already got some food going. Let's throw some hemp in there. Typically a hemp plant at the very least will get you a sleeping bag or a bow. So this setup is gonna, even though the genetics aren't guaranteed to be good, they won't get worse because the plants cannot crossbreed now. The red berry has no red berries adjacent to it. The corn doesn't have corn adjacent to it. And again, you do it the other way. If you really want a lot of potions, or maybe you want a chance at getting a medium instead of a lowest level one, you go like that, and let's put some potatoes in the middle. Again, this is a better setup than the monocrop, which is just guaranteed to be terrible. Now, we already mentioned some stuff about genetics. When you are doing this, you do want to keep your eye out. For instance, this bad boy. This is a near perfect corn, and we just got it by planting a seed. That's so lucky. I'm not going to harvest this for corn. I'm going to harvest this as a clone. I don't want to waste this. Now, even if I don't plan on working on corn, it doesn't matter. This thing is so close to perfect. You'll just use this down the road for all of your food needs until you can work on getting a perfect clone. This is fantastic to start with. Look at the others. Here's another one. This red berry is really good. This would be great to work with from the start without having to do any modifications to it at all. It's a great clone. So if you come across these, go ahead and clone them instead of harvesting them for food or berries or whatever. The catch, and we'll get into this more later, is you don't want to take every single potentially good plant. I'm on a modded server and I'm on this ridiculous garden which I built for a community server run by some friends of mine. It's pretty fun. It's very weird, but it's fun. But you'll notice there's a bank of refrigerators and large boxes. If you're trying to get a perfect hemp seed or hemp clone, you could fill a fridge or a large box with imperfect clones on your way to getting the right genetics you need to get that perfect clone. This ridiculous corn is still going to take probably 4 to 6 clones that are close to what we need before we can actually get the perfect breed out of it, the perfect 2Y 4G, and that's one form of perfect. 2Ys and 4Gs grows fast and has increased yield. It's a great plant. So it's so near to perfect. We only need one change, but it still will take us probably between 4 and 6 plants with a Y in slot 1 before we can actually make that change. So we're starting with near perfect, and it's still going to take a few clones to get us there probably. Starting with imperfect, it takes tons. And you're always looking for 6 greens. If you got a 6 green, go ahead and take it as a clone because those are easy to work with compared to the others. Having said that, that's basically this video. That's all there is to this. Planting without this monocropping. Don't let your plants crossbreed because even if they don't have good genetics, at least they won't get worse. And this is the best thing for starting out in your base. It's just the good way to go about it.